There's a death happening inside you. Not a loud one. Not yet. It's the slow erosion of fire, the quiet murder of your edge, by comfort, by hesitation, by the 1,000 little concessions you make every damn day. You don't cry anymore, but you don't smile either. You scroll, you nod. You used to bleed. You used to break skin for something, even if it meant nothing. Now, you flinch at silence. You confuse stillness with peace, but there's nothing peaceful about your stillness. It's not calm, it's coma. You think you're stable, safe, even healed. But look deeper. That isn't strength. It's stagnation wearing a polite face. Men like you don't get destroyed in explosions. You decay in slow motion, from the inside out, from the second you stopped choosing discomfort, from the moment you made peace with convenience. That was the beginning of your quiet death. Weakness doesn't announce itself like war. It doesn't crash through your walls. It drips, little by little, in the skipped discipline, the second snooze, the ghosted responsibility. And before you know it, you're still standing, but the fight in your eyes is gone. You didn't fall, you faded. Your spine didn't snap, it just softened, day by day. Every time you said it's fine when it wasn't. Every time you reached for comfort instead of cold. Every time you numbed instead of confronted. There is a kind of death most men will never recognize until it's too late. Not the kind that ends a life, but the kind that ends a legacy. And it always starts in comfort. Soft food, soft thoughts, soft truths. But you weren't born for soft. You were born in winter, built to bleed, to sharpen yourself against resistance, to burn the weakness out, not bargain with it. Do you know how wolves train their teeth? Not by chewing cooked meat, by ripping through raw sinew. That's how instinct becomes edge. And you've forgotten yours. They told you peace was the goal. That healing meant no more pain. That comfort was a reward. But look around you. Has it made you stronger? Has it made you sharper? Or has it made you forget how to move without fear? The numbness you carry isn't depression. It's the after effect of being too safe for too long. Like a blade left untouched in a warm drawer. No rust, no scars, just dull. You call it stability, but truthfully, it's sedation. Your fire hasn't gone out. It's just buried beneath layers of dopamine, routine, and self-preservation. You were more alive when you were desperate, more alert when you were hunted, more you when you had to fight for air. And now, you wake up on time. You answer messages. You nod. You smile. You play the role. But deep down, you know, you've stopped bleeding. And that means you've stopped becoming. Most men wait for tragedy to find discomfort again. They wait for heartbreak, bankruptcy, death. But the dangerous ones, the silent kings, they choose pain on purpose. They manufacture storms. They sharpen their psyche in cold water and discipline. They understand one thing. Comfort is not your friend. It is your slowest enemy. It will never punch you in the face. It will kiss your forehead as it takes everything from you. Weakness rarely screams. It whispers lullabies while it rots your spine. So look in the mirror, not at your face, at your fire. Is it still there? Is it wild, or is it tame? Because the world will never wake you up. You have to pull yourself out of the soft bed of your slow death. You have to rip the numbness out with your own bare hands, and bleed again. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because pain means you're still alive. The man you were born to become is waiting, but he won't come find you in comfort. You'll meet him in the cold, in the storm, in the mirror you've been too afraid to stare into. So go ahead, break something, rebuild it stronger. And if you have to suffer, good. That means you're back on the path. Because real men don't decay quietly. They kill their weakness before it kills them. They won't understand why you disappeared. Not at first. You used to be everywhere. Loud in the room. Present in the lives of people who now only remember shadows of who you were. They don't call. They don't ask. They don't notice. And that silence, it cuts. But here's the truth that most men never learn. Silence is not absence. It's construction. Isolation is not punishment. It's initiation. The world teaches you to believe that validation is proof of value, that applause equals growth. But the strongest men in history, They never built empires with crowds cheering at their feet. They built them in the wilderness, one bloody brick at a time, with cracked hands and no audience. Exile sharpens the soul, because when the noise stops, the mirror speaks. No distractions, no performance, just you and everything you've been hiding from. The lies you told yourself, the weaknesses you ignored, the truths that choke. Most men run from that mirror. They drown it in dopamine, in distraction, in empty connection. But not you. You were born for the dark. This wasn't a breakdown, it was a choice. Somewhere deep down, you knew the herd couldn't teach you what you needed to become. So you vanished, quietly, intentionally, like a wolf stepping backward into fog. You stopped begging to be understood. You stopped reaching for hands that never reached back. You stopped explaining your hunger to men who were full on crumbs. And in that silence, something primal woke up. Discipline. Not the kind you post about. The kind that tastes like blood and routine. The kind that reshapes your bones when no one is watching. When no one cares. That's the forge. There's a moment. Just before the move. Just before the word. Just before the leap. It's not long. Half a breath. A flicker in the dark. But in that sliver of time, everything hangs. And then it comes. That voice. Soft. Subtle. Almost polite. Wait. Think twice. Be careful. You listen. You freeze. And just like that, the moment is gone. The edge blunted. The fire put out before it ever reached the surface. Every time you hold back, a piece of you dies. Not visibly. Not loudly. But something essential rots in silence. Your instinct. Your will. Your hunger. And that voice. It's not your conscience. It's not your higher self. It's a scar speaking. The voice that makes you hesitate was not born with you. It was built. Constructed from every moment you were made to feel small. Forged in the heat of shame. Hammered by rejection. Pain doesn't break men. Confusion does. Pain is pressure. Focused. Intense. Demanding. But confusion is fog. No edges. No shape. Just noise. That's what drowns most men. Not the weight on their back, but the fact they don't know why it's there, or what to do with it. You felt it. That burning in your chest, that never leaves. That heaviness behind your eyes. You tell yourself it'll pass. That it's just stress. Or time. Or some phase of life. But it lingers. It waits. Like a storm that forgot how to end. You've been hurt. Not the kind of hurt people see. The kind that festers in silence. The kind that carves new rooms in your chest and locks you inside them. Abandoned. Betrayed. Lied to. Left behind. It doesn't matter how you name it. It's there. Still. Quiet. Coiled like a serpent in your spine. Most men carry their past like a corpse. Heavy. Rotted. Still handcuffed to their identity. They drag it into every room. Every relationship. Every moment of stillness. Hoping no one sees the dead thing behind their eyes. But others, fewer, bury it. Not to forget, but to grow. They don't erase what happened. They don't pretend it didn't matter. They plant it. Deep. In the cold black earth of their becoming. And from that grave, they rise. Because here's the truth. Your past is a weapon, or a weight. You choose. You can wrap your story in shame, and call it fate. Or you can dissect it, like a surgeon with blood on his gloves, and extract what still breathes, what still has use, what still sharpens. You can't rewrite what happened, but you can decide what it made you. That's the fork in the road. That's where men separate from boys. The boy wishes it was different, replays it, argues with ghosts. But the man studies the wreckage. He sorts the rubble. He finds the pieces worth keeping, and he builds. You were not meant to carry your story like chains. You were meant to wield it like a blade. Every failure, every rejection, every night you laid awake, fists clenched, eyes open, asking, why me? That was the battlefield. And now you're still standing, not by accident, not by luck, because something in you refused to die there. The world lied when it told you healing was soft. Healing is war. It's choosing, every single day, to not let your past define you, but to let it design you. You write the myth now, not the fairy tale, not the lie, but the truth. Raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. You stopped hiding your scars. You started reading them. not as proof of weakness, but as symbols of the storms you survived. Because pain doesn't make you broken, it makes you real, and real men don't run from what made them. They honor it. Even the darkest chapters, even the moments no one knows about, especially those, because those are the ashes where your name was written. So what now? What do you do with everything you've lived through? You bury the corpse, and build from its grave. You take the betrayal, and turn it into boundaries. You take the abandonment, and turn it into self-reliance. You take the shame, and burn it into fuel. No apologies, no pretending, no masks, just you. A man forged in memory, but no longer imprisoned by it. Because your past is not who you are. It's the battlefield where who you are was born. You don't lack motivation. That's the lie. Motivation is cheap, fleeting. A sugar high for the weak. It burns fast and leaves you hollow. A man doesn't rise because he feels inspired. He rises because he decided to. But most men today, they float, drowning in dopamine, numb from distraction, entertained to death. They wake up soft, scroll, escape, repeat, and they call it freedom. But it's not freedom, it's drift. No anchor, no mission, no code. A king without a throne, a blade without an edge. The cold king lives differently. He doesn't move for applause. He doesn't chase pleasure. He doesn't negotiate with his weakness. He builds rituals, sharp, unflinching, sacred. He wakes with the discipline of a soldier, not because he feels like it, but because he said he would. Because emotion is not his master. Strategy is. This world teaches men to follow their feelings, to wait for passion, to trust their heart. But the heart is erratic. It bleeds easily. It gets manipulated. And when left unchecked, it burns empires to the ground. The cold king knows this. So he builds from logic, from calm, from control. He studies himself the way a general studies the battlefield. Patterns, triggers, weak points. He doesn't react. He responds. He knows every hour has a cost, every action a consequence. He doesn't live in fantasy. He lives in war, because life is war. And every man is either a strategist or a pawn. Most men dance for attention, for validation, for a hit of false importance. They laugh loud, brag more, show off what's hollow inside. But the cold king moves in silence. He doesn't need the crowd. He uses the crowd. He watches, measures, waits. And when he acts, it's surgical. He doesn't chase outcomes. He stacks systems. He doesn't look for balance. He lives by hierarchy. Not everything gets access to his time. Not everyone gets a response, because his mind is a fortress, and not all visitors are welcome. He trains alone, eats alone, thinks alone, not because he's antisocial, but because solitude is strategy, and distraction is decay. He doesn't rise because he's better than other men. He rises because he governs himself when they can't. No mood swings, no drama, no self-pity, just execution. Power isn't loud, it's consistent. And power doesn't live in the man who feels everything. It lives in the man who moves anyway. Even when tired, even when ignored, even when broken. That's the difference. The jester waits to be motivated. The king moves by design. He builds structure like a cathedral, routine like religion. He sets his rules and obeys them. Because if he doesn't command himself, someone else will. This isn't about hustle porn, or being emotionless. It's about order. A sacred order. You want peace? Earn it through structure. You want clarity? Kill the noise with discipline. You want to be respected? Respect your own schedule. Start with one ritual, one promise kept without excuse. Then build, day after day, stone upon stone. Let no weakness pass unpunished. Let no excuse survive the mirror. And over time, the world will shift around you. People will feel your silence more than others' noise. Your presence will speak before your mouth does. Because you didn't bend, you built. And in a world full of jesters chasing pleasure, be the king who moves in silence, not the clown who dances for approval. You don't lack motivation. That's the lie. Motivation is cheap, fleeting. A sugar high for the weak. It burns fast and leaves you hollow. A man doesn't rise because he feels inspired. He rises because he decided to. But most men today, they float, drowning in dopamine, numb from distraction, entertained to death. They wake up soft, scroll, escape, repeat, and they call it freedom. But it's not freedom. It's drift. No anchor, no mission, no code. A king without a throne, a blade without an edge. The cold king lives differently. He doesn't move for applause. He doesn't chase pleasure. He doesn't negotiate with his weakness. He builds rituals, sharp, unflinching, sacred. He wakes with the discipline of a soldier, not because he feels like it, but because he said he would. Because emotion is not his master. Strategy is. The world is loud. Everyone's speaking, shouting, begging to be seen, posting, arguing, performing. Voices echo like empty barrels. Loud, but hollow. But you don't need to shout. Real power doesn't raise its voice. It lowers the room. The quieter you become, the more dangerous you are. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is control. The man who doesn't speak, unless he must, is feared. Not because he's angry, but because you can't read him. You can't predict him. You can't move him. He becomes a mirror, reflecting your noise, exposing your lack of control. Most men want to be noticed, but the ones who move the world want to be unforgettable. And that doesn't come from volume. It comes from presence. The man who walks slowly, thinks carefully, responds deliberately, commands the room without needing it. He doesn't chase the spotlight. He becomes the gravity around it. Because silence is compressed fire. It's rage, mastered. Emotion, weaponized. Thought, sharpened into steel. Stillness is a discipline. It's the refusal to be moved by anything weaker than your mission. You don't flinch. You don't justify. You don't explain your worth to those who couldn't recognize it. If it screamed in their face, you let them talk. You let them laugh. You let them underestimate you. While you build, brick by brutal brick, alone, in quiet, without applause. Because you know the truth. Thrones aren't built in crowds. They're forged in silence. Carved from hours no one sees. From restraint no one celebrates. You train your face to show nothing. Your eyes to see everything. Your reactions to be calculated. Not out of fear, but out of dominion. The storm inside you no longer controls you. You control it. You don't lash out. You let time punish them. You don't seek validation. You let absence raise questions. You don't chase connection. You become so whole that others feel your lack like a wound. Stillness is the language of kings. Noise is the voice of jesters. Let them dance. Let them prove. Let them burn themselves loud. You stay calm, collected, clear. You sit on the throne you built with your silence. And when you speak, every word cuts like a blade. Because you earned the right to be heard. By being the man who didn't need to be. So when they wonder where you went, don't answer. When they ask who you've become, let your presence respond. And when the world starts to notice the echo you left behind, don't look back. Let others chase the noise. You build your kingdom in the silence. This is not a video. It's a reckoning. You're not here to be liked. You're here to remember who the hell you were before the world made you forget. Comment forged if silence made you dangerous. And never explain yourself again.